Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Rise News. Good to have you all. I am Adesua Omoron.
I'm Rafal Yosini.
And I'm Shaiton Atigari. Good morning.
And while still mourning the death of South African music legend Joseph Shabalala early in the week, the entire music world received another shock over the death of veteran Nigerian highlife musician Victor Olaiya, who died at the age of 89 at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Luth, around noon yesterday.
Olaiya, a native of Ekiti State, was born on the 31st of December 1930 in Calabar, Cross River State. He was the 20th child of a family of 24. Olaiya came from a very rich family, and at an early age, he learned to play the Bombardon and the French horn. After leaving school, he moved to Lagos, where he passed the school certificate examination in 1951 and was accepted by Howard University in the United States to study civil engineering. Olaiya instead pursued a career as a musician to the disapproval of his parents. He played with the Sami Akpobot Band and was leader and trumpeter for the Old Lagos City Orchestra and joined the Bobby Benson Jam Session Orchestra.
Nostalgic feelings there. In 1954, Olaiya formed his own band, the Cool Cats, while playing popular highlife music. His band was chosen to play at the State Ball when Queen Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom visited Nigeria in 1956, and later played at the State Balls when Nigeria became independent in 1960 and when Nigeria became a republic in 1963. On the latter occasion, Olaiya shared the stage with American jazz musician Satchmo himself, Louis Armstrong. During the Nigerian Civil War of 1967 to 70, Olaiya was given the rank of Lieutenant Colonel Honorary in the Nigerian Army, and his band played for the troops at various locations. The Cool Cats later traveled to Congo to perform for the United Nations troops. Olaiya renamed his band the All-Star Band. Now, when they played the 1963 International Jazz Festival in Czechoslovakia.
Well, Dr. Victor Olaiya also ran a business that imported and distributed musical instruments and accessories throughout West Africa and established the Stadium Hotel in Surulere. Now, in 1990, Olaiya received a fellowship of the Institute of Administrative Management of Nigeria. For a period, he was also president of the Nigerian Union of Musicians.
Well, joining us now is Mr. Onyiloku Kingsley David, popularly called King David III, a former national administrator of Performing Musicians Association of Nigeria, PMAN, from 1999 to 2001. He's presently the convener of the Creative Sectors Renaissance Movement in Africa, also known as the CSR movement. And also joining us...
And from our ABUJA studios is Fajilo Alele, with the stage name King Faj, a Nigerian prolific guitar virtuoso musician with an extraordinary skill in playing the guitar and percussion instruments. King Faj has performed at several concerts, both local and international. He is a former chairman of PMAN, that's Performing Musical Arts Association of Nigeria, and the chairman of Federal Capital Territory, ABUJA, under King Sunny Ade and Femi Lasode. Both as president of PMAN, presently is the president of ABUJA Resident Musician Association, Abrema FCT, also the creative director of King Faj and the Gurus, a world-class band specialized in soul healing with music. All right, let me start from you here in the Lagos studio, sir. A very sad one.
Well, as condolences continue to pour in, our guests, both of them, will be taking a look at the life and times of late Dr. Victor Olaiya. Rafai, you were going to go straight ahead.
Yes, so something about, late Victor Olaiya was, he was a chronicler of what was evident in society. I mean, that was characterized with songs like Iluleu. You know, that came out in the thick of, when things were not good for the average citizen in Nigeria. Other great songs like Jamila, if you remember, where even he talked about his Stadium Hotel. He chipped out in Surulere and the likes. What can you say we have missed about him?
Victor Olaiya, in preparing to come and talk about him, I had thought that I would use the analogy of a building, a tall building. And the foundation is not seen. And the big pillars that support the building are basically not seen from the outside. And that is the kind of person that Victor Olaiya has become in the industry. When you talk about Victor Olaiya and the position he occupies, I think that as a foundation of the music industry, he is responsible for the careers of people like Fela Anikulapo Kuti, King Sunny Ade, Victor Waifo. These are people who played and learned music under him, and especially someone called Balamila, who also became my own teacher. So you see, that is the line from which we have come. And the things that we were taught, which I believe was what he taught his own students, was that music does not basically entertain the listener. It also must educate the listener. Okay, so we were of the opinion at the time we were learning that you must talk about society, you must criticize the ills of the society, you must promote good. You know, your music must have a message. And those are the things that we lack right now, you know, and stuff like that. So he's an icon, no doubt about that. But I wish that there was a forum where the younger ones now can learn these things. The band culture is dead.
Yes.
I'm so sorry to say.
Yeah, don't be sorry, please. Say it.
And this is where, I mean, this is where some of us learned to play. We were apprentices, and we lived with the older musicians that time and learned their instruments, you know. But now we have, rather than musicians, we have software experts, you know, and then people like us who criticize and say the Nigerian music industry as a whole is striving on only about 5 variations of songs only. And that is too poor, you know. So when we try to go for the Grammys and we lose, and we don't know what the experts are considering, you know. So these are the things that worry us, and this is something that we hope that the memory of the likes of Victor Olaiya and all the greats like him who have passed away would hold for us.
Indeed. You've talked about the Grammys. I'll bring that up later in the conversation. Certainly. Because coincidentally there's a conversation ongoing about Nigeria's latest nominee for the Grammys, and he said something that is riling up everybody. But let's focus on Dr. Victor Olaiya.
Certainly.
He was the master of the trumpet.
Yes.
He could sing in different languages.
Yes.
And he had the mastery to hold a band together, like you've said.
Yes.
But he was also a composer.
Yes.
What would you say what would you describe as his biggest strength? What was his biggest strength?
His biggest strength basically was in engineering his own genre. At the time he was coming up, highlife had just come into Nigeria from Ghana. You know what I mean? But the bands in Nigeria before that time were mimicking the ballroom cultures of the West, you know, and they were doing the ballroom and the, you know, black tie and, you know, events of the whites of those days. But when the Ghanaians began to have the influence of Jamaicans and Cubans and began to integrate Western music, Western instrument into their music, highlife was born. We give credence to the greats like E.T. Mensah, who engineered that in Ghana strongly and brought it to Nigeria.
The likes of the Kweku Mensah.
Yes, and then when he came in,
Brothers.
there was Bobby Benson on ground. And Bobby Benson took it up, and Olaiya was one of his band boys. And after a while, after growing that and beginning to adopt that immediately, when we learned music in those days, Balamila would say, please give me the calypso version of that song. No, now we play the reggae version of that song. So we began to learn how to adopt what are the characteristics of all of these genres right from that little age. You know, so when we picked all of those up, those were the things that the greats of those days were doing by the snap of the finger. So within a short while, Olaiya now stepped away, set up his own band, the Cool Cats Band, and then Victor Waifo, the likes of Fela Anikulapo Kuti and the rest came.
The likes of the man that died in Agbo, I forget his name now.
Rex Lawson.
Rex Lawson.
Yes, yeah. Rex Lawson was there, and
died young.
Zilonia, the trumpeter, Shegun Bokno, and all of them, and you know. So that is how. These are our roots, you know. So these are the specific things that icons like this represent for us. Yeah.
You know, I would like to talk about, building musical bridges. And like you've rightfully said, you've spoken about the transition, how Victor Olaiya was able to train the next generation of the fellas and, the Victor Waifus, who in turn, we now have people like the Two Faces, who are now legends of today. Now, and, it's very interesting that we did see Victor Olaiya collaborate with Two-Face, and that was how he was able to link and form a connection with this generation. You're mentioning all these names, and the only connection I have is the fact that he was able to collaborate with someone like Two-Face. How important is it to encourage, you spoke about having only 5 types of songs that drive the Nigerian music industry, so that we begin to break those barriers. What would your response to that be?
Yes, I have been very critical about the legacies of some of our elders. This generation, the Olaiya generation, are very, very, very important because these are trainers of trainers, okay? But you find that from the generation of the Okosuns and the rest, I've criticized them severely in the past, and I've said consistently that they have failed to bring up the next generation. At a point, you could not point at any Nigerian artist in the 80s, in the 90s, who we would say is responsible for the career of a Final, for example, or Flavor Bania, and all of those people. Now, like she's mentioning, Burna Boy is saying nobody let it up. You know what I'm trying to say? Yes. The musicians are left on their own, and so when you see that they are unable to expand and to diversify their scope, it is because composing a song in itself is a taxing endeavor. And then bringing in the artistic quality of diversification and all of that, you need somebody who can instruct, So there is no profession that does not have that teacher training tendency. You must have it, otherwise it suffers in the long run.
We'll go on a quick break now, but yes, I think, isn't the conversation should be around apprenticeship system.
Certainly.
Because we should also remember that music is apprenticeship, one way or the other. I mean, all the great acts you see today, even the likes of Louis Armstrong, Satchmo, the apprentices under a couple of people, and bands like that snowballed into what we have today. The Michael Jackson we celebrate today, if not because of Motown music and, and other people of the Motown group, you wouldn't be able to have the Michael Jackson we have today. So, I mean, when we come back, I want us to talk very strongly about the apprenticeship system. And we still have people that transverse this generation. A very good example about one of the best guitarists in the world is King Sunny Ade. We'll talk about how is it lifting people up. We'll be right back after this. It's great to have you back. We're still talking about life and times of Victor Olaiya. Quickly, we'll move to Abuja before we come back to you here, sir, in Lagos. We've got a Fajida Lele in Abuja, King Faj himself. It's a pleasure having you in Abuja. Real quickly, I'm sure if you had followed the conversation, we're talking about the reasons why we can't pass on this, great flair to musicians of nowadays. And the reason, we've been able to identify, but you might have other reasons, is the fact that we don't have a system where musicians go through an apprenticeship system. The fact that all these young people just want to blow by themselves overnight. I mean, that's the word, They blow, they get a good producer to give them beats. I want you to talk through the concept of the apprenticeship system and how it helped you in your career.
Thank you very much. You see, the era of Victor Olaiya, I know it will never come back again. Because yesterday is gone. But Victor Olaiya has really made a great impact in the music industry. You see, when I was growing up as a young boy, my father was a musician, and so I have the opportunity to listen to most of his songs with Eti Mensah, Victor Olaiya, Billy Friday, Eddie Okonta, etc. You see, the music of yesteryears are the real music. Just go back yourself and listen to all the lyrics. They're all meaningful. It's good. all-inclusive. But nowadays, the Nigerians just want to dance. Only rhythm. Dance, 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 dance. And what pricked my heart at most is his last collabo with a Two-Face. It really shows that music is ageless. And Victor Olaiya at bringing her life to the peak. We all they were told that highlife originated from Ghana. But a person like me, I think highlife is from Lagos. Victor Olaiya, Bobby Benson, etc. You know, and so Victor Olaiya, it cannot be forgotten forever. All over the world.
But let me stay with ABUJA so that we'll just do the cross here. You respond to that, sir, from our Lagos studio. But I'll stay with you, King Faj in ABUJA. First, I'd like to ask you, how did you receive the news of his death? Secondly, a great artist of his time, but what legacy really would you say that Dr. Victor Olaiya has left behind?
Well, I received the shock it's very heavy. It's more than a normal shock. But nevertheless, to nothing that good stays forever. And his music has really impacted most of us who are real musicians. Because we have musicians, we have artists, we have entertainers. But I tell you, his music, he has paved a path for us. Where we coming behind. You can see all over the world now, Afrobeat, highlife music, highlife. It's because of the past work of people like Victor Olaiya. No song you listen to today from the younger generation, either the bass line or the tenor line, the beat or part of the lyrics, are from the music of yesteryears. From people like Victor Olaiya. And so I tell you, Olaiya is like everything about Nigerian music.
Thank you so much for that. I was going to come back to you. And, you know, we're talking about apprenticeship. And I also want to spin it this way. I know this one I was going to ask a question along that line with Burna Boy. Because, you see, the great level of apprenticeship, pretty much an high life, started by the NBC having a program, a jazz program, that was hosted by Benson Idonite, which happens to be Burna Boy's grandfather. And that was, Benson Idonite is Burna Boy's grandfather. And that was a pedestal, you know, for the apprenticeship that became Fela and the likes. I mean, because Benson Idonite actually managed Fela. So how can you, you know, have that level of apprenticeship for a lot of people these days?
The tradition before and during Victor Olaiya's time was already apprenticeship. An apprenticeship is an established system of training of young people across, I mean, I think it's cultural to Africa. Why did we break away from that? The money factor. People like us, I and Faji trained under the same set of teachers back in Kaduna in those days. And Kaduna is the base for Balamila and all of those generations. So you find out that while others went to continue to play on stage and to sing all the time, people like us who had better education decided to work behind the desk. Because as an industry, we needed to understand the dynamics, what brings the cash. I was fortunate again to work under Sonny Ade, who you've mentioned, as the national president of PMAN when he was national president the second time around. He is a very passionate person about engineering the industry so as to ensure that everybody in the value chain earned his pence and kobo, so to speak. I was with Sonny Ade when they will bring him a check from London for £4,000 for the use of his work over there. Not concerts that he played, but the using of his Yoruba songs on British radio across Europe. And he will earn £4,000, sometimes in 6 months, sometimes in 3 months. And the check will get to him in Nigeria. Yeah. How was that system so effective and efficient? So how can we engineer that for our own generation, or for our own people here? The television stations, the hotels, the transport companies, they use music in the public arena, not in the home consideration. But nobody gets a check.
But I think Kosan was working on that at some point.
Well, that is discussion for another day.
Okay.
You know, so,
Definitely.
yeah.
I would like to, I like the fact that this conversation has segued into the royalties structure that we have in Nigeria. And you did make a statement. I want to bring King Faj into this conversation about, he said something, he said, artists of today, they create music because Nigerians just like to dance. And you have spoken about the money factor.
Yes.
So how do we bridge that gap? Because you have to create something that your consumers would appreciate. If we had a classical artist here a few weeks ago who had spoken about the fact that she creates music, but then she's not getting enough money from it. So you also need to consider these artists, they are trying to appeal to the Nigerian mindset of today. So keeping the quality of the music, but then being able to make money off of it. King Faj, how can we bridge that gap?
You see, we cannot blame the younger generation because there was no proper handover from the older generation to the younger generation. This younger generation, I hail them, I praise them every day because they took the bull by the horn. Nobody guide them. There's no guidance after the era of Majek Fashek, Raskimono, Orizwiliki, down, the lane. Nothing else. There was a gap for about 2 decades. Space. No mentorship, no handover. It's like a relay. The pride of America today is their music, their films, and basketball. And that's all. In Nigeria, there was no proper handover. It's from Rex Lawson to everybody. No handover. Okosun, there's no handover. So, Almighty God, they saw the abundant talent in Nigeria and said, these talents cannot waste. And he used people like them, Kenny's them, and Two-Face, and open a small window. And the bright light is shining. And now everybody, nobody is a big old guy again. What pains me most is that there's no record label again in Nigeria. No record label. All the subsidiary label, everybody, the ones who make a hit, you are a label owner. And so I think the government, it must redirect our focus. Each artist, Two-Face can employ almost 30 people on payroll. Davido, the same thing. Whiskey, the same thing. Everybody, even Ada Davis, myself, I have a band. Yes. And so the government...
I almost guessed that you buttress what Burna Boy, Nigeria's latest nominee for the Grammys, has said yesterday, which is causing controversy. He says nobody paved the way for us. I brought the respect Nigeria is currently enjoying. But we're going to go on a break, and you come back to respond to that. I know you also want, Mr. Oyoloko, you also want to respond to Sheita's question as well as Burna Boy. We'll take a break now, but we'll be back to talk some more about the life and times of one of Nigeria's doyen in the music industry. Please join us. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. It's a sad time as well as happy times, I guess I should say, because the legacies of the man we'll talk about is enormous on the Nigerian music industry and beyond. Well, we have Oyoloko Kingsley Davy, popularly called King David III, with us in the studio, as well as from our ABUJA studios, Fajilo Alele, stage name King Faj. Thank you, gentlemen, for staying with. Yeah, thank you, gentlemen, for staying with us. Let me go back to you, King Faj, because you made that comment about bridging the gap, which Shaita had asked you. But I chipped in the issue of Burna Boy saying that no one paved the way for us. the fame Nigeria is currently enjoying, I brought it.
Well, actually, the older the generation did not pave way. It brought the younger generation. It paved way also for him too, because I hear that I listened to one of his song and I saw the melody and rhythm of Angelique Kidjo. And that means that somebody had paved way for him. If not, he would have not used the melody of Angelique Kidjo and this for one of his hit songs, recent ones. But actually, the older generation from 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, they did not. Just I and I, the government for me and my children and myself. Even the musicians did not benefit. And most musicians that played the lead guitars and bass line and drums in most of these hit songs, most of them are in poverty today. Nobody think about them, no royalty for them, nobody knows about them. Lost the peanut they were paid for studio section and then. After that, nothing. Nobody they get royalty. You can write a song for somebody now, nobody they care about you. So the dual system have to
If you can hear me, do stay with us. Let's bring Mr. Oyoloko into this conversation as well. Shaitan asked about bridging that gap with making money, making good songs, and then you had the controversy about Burna Boy. You want to chip in?
In the past, we relied solidly or completely on what the government would do. Times have changed. The internet is there now, and that has formed our common community. The internet has given us the power to determine who we are, how we are addressed, and where we want to go. So that is why, even in your introduction, you introduced me as a convener of an organization called the Creative Sectors Renaissance Movement in Africa. And that is because of new knowledge that has come our way. And I believe that it answers all of these questions, because if the musician community in Nigeria, or the artistic community in Nigeria, or even the literary community in Nigeria, along with some of the performing artists, come together as we have always thought that we could do, to talk about how we are going to make money from our works, we fail largely, because the government sees us as an unorganized sector. We are an informal sector. They do not have a right description in their law books or in their technical books for people like us. But right now, we have found out that content is the next gold. You see what I'm trying to say? So what we are doing right now, we are creating content. So our industry has expanded from guitar players and drum players to presenters like you, companies like Arise Television, newspaper houses. We have expanded. We have included all of these people, because all of us have become content creators. And our playground now is on the internet. And people are going to patronize content. They are going to pay for it. They are paying for it by the minute. So if we can key onto that super highway, then we can carve a niche for ourselves. Okay. We're not talking about the disposition of the government in Nigeria or in Ghana anymore. We're talking about what is legally and technically true. Okay. So the Creative Sectors Renaissance Movement in Africa is riding on the popularity of African creatives now, okay? Because we are packing concert halls across Europe unprecedentedly. Sonny Ade did it a long time ago, and the likes of Dele Abiodun and all of the guys who were constantly in festivals overseas, but not as much as this young generation are doing it. So based on current knowledge, we think that we will have our way shortly. Okay.
I want to come in here. King Fahd raised a very important point.
Yes.
And the point was about recognizing people. And he said, you see, the people that played most of the guitar and the likes are not appreciated. Yes. And let me come back to you, because you see, we shout Afrobeat today.
Yes.
And I want to make a very controversial statement here.
Yes.
That the baseline of Afrobeat, the real beats that people churn out in Afrobeat, was not Fela, was a man called Tony Allen.
Yes,
That was the drummer of Fela. You get. And people are not, recognizing these people as much as they're supposed to be recognized.
Yeah.
I mean, for every Afrobeat song anybody plays out today, they should be able to credit the likes of them, Tony Allen and the likes. I mean, what do you say to this?
I will zero in on the feebleness of the industry as responsible for that. Now, let me not only talk about the likes of creatives behind the main frontal artist. Let me talk about what has always not happened in a real industrial setting. Back in the days, nobody had to shout the name of the producer of a song in the opening seconds of a song. Nobody had to say, it's Don Jazzy again, or it's, nobody needed to do that because the industry is an industry. We in the industry, we know ourselves, okay? The buying public does not have to concern with who did this or who did that, who didn't do that. You know what I'm trying to say? But now, with the decline of the industry in Nigeria, people needed to stake their stake, and to shout out their names and say, I'm the one who is doing this, I have produced this person. In the past, nobody knew what a record producer was. But now people have become, acquainted with that because people are, So if we give rise to the industry, if the creative sector's Renaissance movement can generate our industry back, then, of course, you'll find out that people will go back into their own creative cocoons and concentrate more because they know that when I meet my colleagues, they know me and I know them. In the absence of that beating point, that is where they go to the public and begin to shout their names, over the songs before the music starts. It's okay. It's so and so who is producing this. It's so and so. Now, what does the creative sector's Renaissance entail? It means that anybody who creates content, the producer of this program, for example, this very today's edition is indexed. Yes. Okay. Anything we do is indexed. If you look at Victor Olaiya's discography, his albums are indexed. You see the ones by EMI, Polydor, they have a certain secret serial number, that goes with them that industry people understand. Yeah. Okay. So that is what...
Our producer are signatories to that. We need to celebrate Victor Olaiya.
Exactly. I definitely want to come in here. I was just looking at the tweet that went out by the former presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar, and he said, his delivery on the trumpet and his hits from the 50s are moments that Nigerians will never forget. And for the next 5 minutes, I just want to, take it back to Abuja with King Faj and probably come back to you to just highlight some of your fondest memories with Dr. Victor Olaiya, even as we wrap up.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, at Victor Olaiya, like at Fela too, his parents they sent him abroad to study engineering. He ended up as a musician. The same thing with Fela, You can't run away from music. It's a spirit. So like my friend Ada David, it's in there. The creative industry needs to wake up and stand up. At Victor Olaiya, I compared his speech with Louis Armstrong and Miles Davis and E.T. Mensah, all of them. In those days, trumpeters were the band leaders. Not nowadays that the drummer, they can the band leader, anybody, they can own a band and this thing. And you would see always all of them with a white handkerchief as a trumpeter. The first time I saw a Dr. Olaiya was at the Costain Club. He came to visit his old friend at Balamila and trumpets like Dizzy Gillespie. You'd compare him with anybody in the world. And so I'm proud to be a Nigerian. Yes, to say that, yes, high life music will never die. I know that from this moment, you start hearing to most of Olaiya songs you've never heard before.
Faj, thank you so much. That's a good way to remember him. Very quickly, Mr. Local, your favorite Dr. Olaiya song and how you would remember him?
Definitely Baby Joe. Yes. And the Omopupa songs are legendary. Victor Olaiya, when we were growing up, people like Balamila, Victor Olaiya, you heard Faji say Victor Olaiya visited the Costain Club. Costain Club was where we were trained by Balamila. And the things they told us at the time was that the instruments have a personality. Every musical instrument has its own personality.